Welcome to the Bender Continues podcast. Today we have a very special treat for you. Joining us is not only our dear friend and ex-teammate, but also an integral part of our podcast family, the one and only Ryan Selimos.
We're about to embark on a journey, steering our conversation towards a topic that touches every fabric of our lives, and that's relationships. Ryan's going to be our guide through this exploration. From the gridiron of childhood to becoming a valued manager within the financial industry, he's traversed the intricate landscape of relationships and will provide his personal evolution in building lasting connections.
We have the privilege of diving into the mind behind the microphone, sitting down with Ryan for a candid conversation. Whether it's the bond of friendship, camaraderie, teammate, or love, or family, Ryan Selimos embodies the essence of sustaining meaningful relationships. So sit back, relax, and prepare to be inspired as we uncover the lessons learned and the true challenges overcoming in the moments that have shaped Ryan, which ultimately creates a case for building relationships.
I know you meant pray to be inspired. I'm praying too. Don't worry. And traverse. Come on, guys.
Yeah, come on.
This is way too. People don't talk about me in this nice, official, proper fashion. All right, jeez.
Yeah, sometimes a squirrel,
Can find a nut. There we go, baby. Blind squirrel. Oh,
blind
boy.
squirrel. Sorry, I botched it.
It's
but
okay.
hey,
It's okay.
It's good. It's good.
What the hell you guys want to know?
All right, well, let's start from the early age. Let's
Oh, boy.
start from the beginning so that everyone can understand the path to who you are today. So if we look back at the childhood phase, can you tell us a little bit more about your family life growing up, maybe cousins or people that surrounded you, like friends in the neighborhood, and what that was like?
Yeah, for starters, childhood was crapping my pants just like the rest of y'all. So just get that clear. No, but
we didn't say infancy.
Right, my parents, Gus Selimos, Michelle Selimos, and the great Matt Selimos. So the Selimos family. I was really, really lucky growing up because I actually had my extended family, both on my mom and my dad's side, within 30 minutes. So 2 uncles on my dad's side, and then 4 in total aunts and uncles on my mom's side. So whether it was birthdays,
Big
celebrations, family. Yeah, everyone that, meaning that, I guess, whatever, can't articulate. Just the opportunity to show up for those special moments from an early age. I had that opportunity. I got to see that. From kids in the neighborhood standpoint, funny enough, I didn't really have the type of neighborhood where, all the kids are, we've talked about in previous episodes, going out to play backyard football. I didn't have that group right there. I kind of outsourced it. And you all got to meet my childhood best friend, Fabian Moreau. His neighborhood was really that setting. There was a park, 5-minute walk. So whether it was football, basketball, even baseball, even hockey, we'd go over there, spend entire days, weekends, just having that experience. So while it wasn't direct for me, definitely got to live it out. And that's truly one of the, one way we became close. And I've known him since preschool. So preschool. Him
Still in touch with him today.
Still in touch with him. Not as much, not as frequent, but again, for those special moments. He was a groomsman at my wedding, so we still have that bond. Him and Tanner Moeller, the 2 people. Tanner's a funny one because I wouldn't expect that. We've been friends since preschool because we went to school together. So,
Well, you stayed in one place or you lived in multiple places?
I moved once, a whole 7 streets over. So big change. Really, up until college, South Florida, in the same neighborhood the entire time. So, Again, kind of my family didn't move around much, so that whole upbringing around the same people not preschool, but elementary school and middle school, it was K through 8. So we even grew up with the same people in that regard until I got to high school. You start to branch out. Now I did play sports just like y'all, so that was more my opportunity to meet new people with different backgrounds, different perspectives.
Not in your
grew
close
up differently
vicinity.
as well. Yeah,
Of course.
And was the same for your family too? Like that you said you had uncles, aunts, and everybody was still living kind of close around you. Did that kind of stay for majority of your childhood and keep kind of going, or did families start to maybe have opportunities and move away and whatnot? But
I'd say up until I was probably late 20s, I had an uncle who moved up to Montana, and one uncle was just not around as much. But for the most part, everyone else is still in South Florida. I think now, especially that I moved away, Matt's been a little back and forth. We're starting to see people go off on their own. But for the longest time, we were all in South Florida. I mean, 2 of my aunts and uncles actually lived in the house they grew up in at different points. So
Really?
yeah.
And I'm assuming you guys holidays and just celebrations and milestones that happen. You guys are always celebrating together, bringing in other friends that probably the other families had. And you see, it was just a big group, and you just had a lot of people around you kind of growing up. Is what it
Yeah.
sounds like.
And until my aunt and uncle on my dad's side divorced, I mean, it was my mom's entire family would come over for those events, dad's entire family. Like, there was a mix of that. And you don't always see that
No.
in the family and from a family standpoint. So we had that opportunity for a little bit as well. And I think that's what's led me to be real close with my cousins. But now I got 2 cousins. One's out in Colorado. The other his brother is going to graduate from UF, go Gators for Johnny. And he's probably going to follow him. And then you got me and Matt. So I was really one of the first ones who started to branch out of the South Florida area for my family.
Were you the oldest?
Yeah. Now, the only outside, my dad, born and raised in Toronto, so he moved down in his 20s. But then really, for our entire childhood until I went to college, there wasn't much movement.
Makes sense.
You mentioned sports. What sports did you play when you were a kid?
Like, we played everything, just like y'all. I mean, soccer, baseball, flag football, basketball, hockey, tackle football. I tried it all, did it all. I think sometimes I would call myself jack of all trades, master of none, because, you just don't as I got older, find the time or dedicate the time to commit to just one and really zero in. Now, it got less as I got older, but you got to find what you like. I loved hockey for the longest time. Only reason I stopped playing hockey is because it was during tackle football season.
Roller or ice?
Ice.
Ice time's hard to get to.
Yeah.
Especially in Florida.
Yeah.
Not as much up north, but
Yeah.
down here I've found it is definitely difficult.
From the sports side, team aspect, did you usually play a lot of the same sports with the same people and have like kind of same teammates growing up? Were they different people that because their parents brought them into these sports? Like,
Yeah. I would say as I probably started to get into middle school, I mean, before that, it was all rec leagues and stuff. It doesn't really matter. You see different people. But I would say in middle school, yes, because from a tackle football standpoint, you guys playing Pee-wees, those teams, you might move up in weight classes, but it's for a city. You represent a city, so the people you're playing with, your teammates are going to be the same. And then for travel baseball, too, I would say 5th through 8th grade, for those 2 sports specifically, it was basically the same or similar teammates, maybe a couple changes here and there that I got to grow up with.
on the sports teams, did you have a lot of different parent coaches? Did your parents coach?
Gus Selimos was always a coach, never a head coach. Never wanted to be responsible for the parents and the big decisions, but he always wanted to be a part of it. So yeah, he's been coaching me and my brother since we can remember. One thing for him is his dad, my grandfather, great guy, but just wasn't as into sports. So my dad grew up a lot, looking to the stands and not having that representation. And that was one thing he always told me was, he was going to be there for every moment, whether it was as a fan or as a coach. And he was, for me and for Matt.
That's cool. You can't say that a lot.
Yeah.
I empathize with you a lot on having a lot of family around. That was kind of how I grew up too.
Yeah.
And so it's unique. You don't hear that a lot. I've seen a lot of families that there could be bickering between.
Sure.
And I don't know if you ever saw fights. Maybe you did.
Oh,
yeah. The
yeah.
parents, the uncles and aunts. Yeah. Okay.
For sure, bro. Yes.
Did it ever escalate to a point of no return?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Parents are worse than the kids half the time.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And we might get into this a little bit later, but I think there's a saying out there from a parent standpoint, and I'm not saying this happened with my grandparents, but it's a common theme I feel like in maybe today's world is those that grow up in divided households, when they become adults, they try to do everything in their power to stay together, whether it's healthy for the family or not. When those who grow up and see those that really fought to stay together when it wasn't that healthy, then they're adults, they do the exact opposite. So I just think that's an interesting comparison. Again, that's not directly the dynamics that I grew up in, but I think a lot of people do face that from a relationship, from a family standpoint. But yeah, we saw our fair share of arguments. I'm sure this is a topic y'all did too. I know it.
All right. Well, just to shed light on a different topic area
Sure.
around your childhood, that's going to hopefully push us towards getting a little bit older now. But from a childhood perspective, let's think of like pre-high school, maybe middle school, elementary school. Do you have a fondest memory that you could share with us?
Pre-high school. Oh, I would probably say it's the time that me and my friend Fabian spent together. I mean, we've talked about on previous episodes, you're growing up as a kid, those playing video games all night in the summer.
Oh, yes.
Parents are in bed. Like, we would create NCAA Dynasty. We would each create a team. We would schedule to play each other at the end of the season, and we would stay up all night playing other teams just to play against each other at 7 a.m. or whatever, like stupid stuff like that. But we actually had the opportunity to play tackle football together. And in 8th grade, we won the state championship together, and he actually caught the game-winning touchdown. And that's a memory I will never forget, just in that moment. Because funny enough, we might get into this with his story. Me and my family helped get him into football. His family was huge for soccer, but I mean, dude was quick as lightning, super fast, and he wanted to play ball. But his dad just wasn't familiar with the game of football. His parents weren't, so they needed some pushing, some convincing. So for him to be able to finally, we got to play together. That was awesome. We played 2 years together, and like I said, we won a championship together. And again, it's 8th grade. What does that mean? But the memories we take away from that.
Oh, yeah.
That's a talking point we have until forever.
Yeah.
No,
I'm pretty
definitely.
sure you kicked my ass that year, actually.
And he actually had the opportunity to go. He played college at UCLA. He's in the NFL right now, so he's been able to live out that dream, and a little piece of it, I've been able to live out that dream and see it too, it's awesome.
Yeah, very cool.
So he started as like 7th grade is what it sounds like. You said 2 years?
7th grade is when he finally we were able to get him to play tackle.
Nice. I mean, we all played football here.
Yeah.
Did you guys also like start really early? I mean, it sounds like, Ryan, you were starting pretty young.
I started in 5th grade for tackle, but I played flag up to that point.
Gotcha.
My dad actually, we were there for sign up for flag one year, and we got convinced to play tackle. We didn't tell my mom, and that might have been one of those moments where there might have been some fireworks in the household, because we left with she had one interpretation when we left, and we got home. It was not what she was expecting nor what she wanted. So
So it only lasted one day.
I don't. It might have lasted a little bit. I don't remember. I was super happy that day. My pops maybe took a couple shots from me as a result of that, but worth it for sure.
That's fun.
Oh, that's good. That's good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I started young too. I think we all probably
Yeah.
did.
I was 6th
started-
grade, so I was kind of probably closer to Fabian. I actually have a similar path where I played soccer for the whole time and then finally football. But
Yeah.
I didn't have the problem that he had, where your parents were able to step in, and that kind of shows the close relationship that you built with them, that where your parents were able to say like, hey,
Yeah.
your son really wants to do this sport, right? And they impacted his life, right? And that's kind of it's a beautiful thing, because I mean, look at where he's at now.
Yeah.
Right. It's amazing. But yeah, I mean, my dad, he played football growing up, so that wasn't hard to transition. Actually, he probably didn't know much about soccer, so he went and learned about it. But nevertheless, that's cool, man. That's cool.
Can you touch base on high school a little bit? I think that you have some unique experiences. We've had a unique experience being able to have more of an insider input with that, because James just has some insight from an outsider's perspective, where we don't have that as much on Johnny and I's side. But can you shed some light on what your high school experience was like? Because it is unique.
Yeah. So I went to St. Thomas Aquinas my freshman year. But as we've talked about, I can be a prima donna. Sometimes I can be selfish sometimes. And I didn't see a path to playing until maybe senior year. And I wanted to get on the field now. So I wound up transferring to Archbishop McCarthy, which was the school I intended to stay for the rest of my high school career. I actually went to freshman year. James and I actually, we played together at freshman ball, so we technically knew each other, which is crazy in itself. So I went to McCarthy, spent 2 years there, met a lot of great people. But for whatever reason, there was a change in leadership at the school. They fired the football coach after we had made a run at states, which rubbed people the wrong way. And just there were the new administration didn't view sports and view football as highly as the previous one. And then I had to make some tough decisions I couldn't afford to go there anymore. So as a result, I did go to 3 high schools in 4 years, which is crazy. Think about it. And, I have some regrets from that on a couple of different levels. But one thing I've noticed, as I've gotten older is through sports, I've kind of taken on a chameleon effect. And what I mean by that is, it was very easy for me to go to 3 different high schools in 4 years and find a group to fit in with and hang out with because, I had sports as that breakaway in, and I can touch on that later, but that's been a takeaway as I look back. But some of the regret I have is, again, I met a lot of great people at McCarthy, and they're all friends to this day. And I'm the one that kind of stepped away. And it was on me. I'm the one who kind of dropped in communication. And, I see that. And I'm super happy for them that, they have that closeness. But it's something I missed out on. I also, going back to the Fabian story, right? He was playing ball at a local high school that I looked at and I did not wind up going to. And him and I, and actually one of our boys, Dre Long, were having a conversation at my wedding. And I was kind of sharing, I would have loved to go have that opportunity to play ball again with him. And one of the things he said that I'll never forget is he really wanted me to make the decision to go so that he could do for me what we did for him. Because again, he played at UCLA. His future was kind of already set. Mine was still unknown. And he wanted to help kind of solidify a future in football for me, like how we in the beginning gave him a future in football. So when I heard that, that was just, I'd never thought of that, of his thought process of it. So that one hit deep on a regret maybe of why I didn't go play. Maybe I should have, maybe I could have. Ultimately, I went to North Broward Prep, did my final year there. But the flip side is if I don't go to North Broward Prep, I probably don't end up at Stetson. I don't meet my wife. I don't meet you guys. We're not sitting here today. So it's hard to say you live with regret. It's just looking back, you never know. But those are just some of the takeaways from all that movement of how it could have panned out. And all 3 could have been fantastic situations. I stay at McCarthy. I stay down south. I stay with that close knit group of friends that, again, they're still together to this day. And we have a little communication, but it's tough for me personally. It's probably more me that, again, cuts that off. You go the Fabian route, and who knows? And then you have the Stetson route, and here we are. So,
Yeah, a lot to think about.
yeah.
A real lot to think about.
So before we kind of get into as you transition to college, I'm curious, what do you think that defining moment or reasoning behind why you didn't keep in touch? Like, what were the things was there something necessarily going on in that moment? Were there specific reasons? Or was it just pure, hey?
No, because, my senior year, you think about it, right? High school senior year is that year. It's that highlight for all of us, right? So my senior year, they're all going through those highlight moments together, and I'm at a different school. I'm finding my own path. Again, the chameleon, fitting in. I'm getting it done. I'm figuring it out. I'm good. But, I tried to still kind of sit on the fence of both, of still be with that group and like I was at the school, but I wasn't. And it just went a different way for whatever reason. And again, there were 100% opportunities for me to reinsert myself, or there were opportunities for me to stay in there, stay in the fold. And for whatever reason, I just didn't take advantage of it. Text messages left unread, calls, not made back. And even, there was this guy named Robert Barreras, and his mom, when we launched this podcast, actually commented and shared of, the memories we had. And just, again, it just goes back to the type of people and the moments that we did get to share, and that's awesome. But for whatever reason, it just didn't work out. And again, it stays with me.
Did your parents weigh in, like just kind of when they checked in and as you were going through this process of changing, like did they help prepare you for the moves from high school to high school? I mean, what was the decision making? How did you guys go about
Yeah, so the first one from St. Thomas to McCarthy, which again, it was never supposed to be 3. It was only supposed to be 2. You know, from an academic
early.
Yeah, from an academic standpoint, both were fantastic. I mean, I almost went to McCarthy as a freshman anyways. I kind of personally wanted to. I think I went to St. Thomas more as my parents maybe pushed me more. So when I got to McCarthy, that's where I truly wanted to be. So
Gotcha.
Again, it was about football, but it was about academics too. It was about basketball. I wanted to play basketball and had the opportunity at McCarthy. I didn't have the opportunity at St. Thomas. You know, I wanted to play high school ball there. I played 2 years, and then my senior year made the decision to just go football. But when it came to the North Broward thing, it was a pure football decision. I mean, my grades were fine from an SAT, ACT, GPA standpoint. It truly was football and getting to the next level. And, you know, I think we got better just a better conversation, a better sell at a prep school than at a public school. And that's, you know, we went with that decision for North Broward Prep over Western. But purely football was the decision. And that was when my parents understood that. And my mom actually signed off on it, which, you know, moms in those situations, it's always academics and, you know, the non-sport side. But that was purely a sport decision, which you don't see that too. At least I was not expecting that, you know, in my high school career.
Yeah. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, or you could shed some light on it, but when you were going from McCarthy to North Broward Prep, there was some problems going on at McCarthy with the football program, correct?
Yeah. So there was a change in administration, and then they had fired the head coach, who we just made a run to states on, and you bring in this new regime. Funding and financials became a problem as well based on that administration change, and that's what led to the decision for a lot of people to have to leave and reroute. I played with Marshall Morgan, who was a kicker for Georgia, had a couple years in the NFL. In high school, he wound up at a different high school as well. So yeah, I wasn't just the only one. It was kind of a mass exodus in a sense.
Yeah, that's I actually remember hearing about it. And you know, obviously we knew each other because you went to St. Thomas.
Right.
I went to St. Thomas too. I stayed all 4 years. And we saw each other in passing, and I know this is always my favorite story. We would see each other because as a kicker, and Ryan was actually a holder, and then obviously they also had wide receiver practice going on. But we did this at McCarthy while he was there, so I would see him every Sunday, and we would just lock eyes and be like, "Kind of remember you, I know you, but I'm not going to say hi. We're not going to." And it
was so awkward, bro.
It was mutual. It was mutual. I was feeling the same way. I'm like, I don't want to talk to this guy. I don't even know him anymore. But I remember because of being out there at McCarthy, and plus, you had the special teams coach came from St. Thomas too. So
yeah, he did.
And I know those are some great stories that he has shared with me as well as you've experienced firsthand. But yeah, I remember hearing the stories about like the program kind of falling apart and a mass exodus and everything. But it sounds like Fabian stuck it out.
So Fabian actually left. Fabian was not. He was at Western.
So he went to Western.
He was at Western after his freshman year. So he was there for 3 years. So the decision was either to go to North Broward, or go with some of the McCarthy guys, or go to Western with Fabian. And again, just based off the conversation and pitch.
Are you talking Northwestern or?
No.
I was just curious.
No.
That's a school?
Western was a high school.
Not Miami Northwestern?
No.
Yeah, I didn't know Fabian went there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Western was a high school. And they were actually pretty good, too.
His junior and senior year, I'm telling you,
they balled out. They gave us some problems, too, when we beat them, but yeah. So you've bounced around now from different high schools, right? Friends groups kind of changing and shifting. You had all these people you grew up with in childhood. You kind of obviously had a lot of middle school runs there with probably the similar people, right? That seems to be the story that you're telling. Now all of a sudden you transition to I'm kind of leaving all these people behind. You're almost lone wolfing. Now you have to go find a college.
Right.
What was the mindset going into college? Essentially, like you're leaving your high school. What were the goals and aspirations? What made you do the choices? What did you want to accomplish in college? I'm going to gather it's probably sports related is what
Stetson was chosen for 2 reasons. 1 for football, 2 for academics. He had to sell mama on academics, but it was another football decision. I knew look at me. I ain't no D1. Like I knew it was cool.
D1 double A.
It was 1 AA, and that my goal. My goal sophomore junior year was to get to 1 AA level. So I was able to check a box and say, hey, I got to go play D1 AA. That was huge for me. Even with what Stetson had to offer, and we all got sold on Roger.
Yep.
Hell of a salesman, and again, but it's helped led to this today. But that chameleon effect came back into play real quick at Stetson when, I'll never forget it. We haven't left for college yet, but the parents organized a quote unquote meet and greet. And it's the St. Thomas kids. There was a group of St. Thomas kids going to Stetson. Well, I went to St. Thomas for a year, so I kind of know. So here I show up at this meet and greet. We're going to Stetson dinner. You got James there. You got Eric Fitzgerald. You got a couple, Tanner Moeller, who we've talked about.
Joey Rizzo.
Yeah. So there I am, back like I've been with you guys for 4 years. Just whoop whoop. Let me.
Yep.
There was like 10 of you.
That chameleon effect that you're mentioning.
Yeah.
Is an interesting concept. I've never heard you say it before.
I'm telling you, it's a new realization as I did this deep dive. It comes up even more. It's weird.
I'm curious. So when you I think it's interesting because we kind of understand the story to a certain level. James has a point of view, obviously knowing you from growing up a bit more than Kenny and I. But
Sure.
as we talk about making the decision to go to Stetson, right? Being in college, what was the influence, as James asked? I think it's very interesting because as you are an adult now, as you grow up, when we first met you, you have, of course, what's that thing Roger would always say? 6 seconds, you get a perception.
Oh, yeah.
The fact that you have been able to reflect on that chameleon effect, and the
knew I'd get
changes
you with that.
and for real, and all of the things that took place in the switching high schools, it resonates so much more now. And really the reason why you are the way you are. And this is why we're focused on quote unquote relationships for this part of this podcast, stems really for who you are to this day. So when we hear that and see that, I guess just walk us through when you got to college. Obviously, when you get to college, you're trying to figure it out. Everyone's kind of experimenting with whatever that means, but talk us through that journey, especially going through what you've kind of gone through. I almost feel that this was a good thing, and I'm saying this in my own opinion, because it gives you a fresh perspective. Yeah. There's a lot of people starting new, starting over. And this is a chance to almost build your new brand and who you are and what you want to accomplish out of those 4 years.
So for starters, we talked about going back to my childhood. I didn't leave till 18, right? My family did, and I was kind of the first one to break away. We are on the drive. It is only 3 hours from South Florida to DeLand, Florida. If you don't know DeLand, Daytona, I don't think I'm in fucking Florida because South Florida, Kenny.
It is dramatic.
It is.
Oh yeah.
There's one dynamic, and you get out of West Palm, it is completely different. We are on the road, and I'm just like, where the hell? I mean, yeah, you visit Stetson, you commit, but then it's months ago, so I'm like, where are we going? What the hell? What did I sign up for, basically? But then getting there, I mean, for me, it might have been new for a lot of people. I'd done this 3 times. So I knew exactly how this was probably going to play out. I've done this song and dance before getting to college. It wasn't anything new. We were there, a month early for football? Yeah. The girls are looking, we ain't seen girls for a month. The 2s are looking like 10s by the time they get there. Y'all know it to be true.
You want to preface why you're saying that?
Because we were in camp 2 days. It's the hot dehydration.
120 dudes,
all dudes, no chicks.
Basically
But
just grinding away.
yeah. But I got close with Adam Vincent and Tyler McGill, people we've talked about before. They were roommates right across the hall from me. So also played football. So kind of found them right away. Had the St. Thomas kids. And then, yeah, that was kind of the first semester, and then we started, and then Pike comes aboard, and that's I think where you start to find yourself, because we all know it, and anyone who goes to college, that first semester, a lot of people don't make it. A lot of people get homesick, they go back home for whether you're playing sports or not. It's just for any 18-year-old, it's a change when you go to school away, when you move away, and you have to get over that hump, and not everyone does. So you have to find yourself a little bit.
Yeah, and I believe we all had, at one point during that first semester, thoughts of leaving.
Sure.
I almost went back to Jersey. I was close.
That first semester.
How many times did you drive back home when we had an off weekend?
Oh, gosh.
I couldn't.
Yeah.
I couldn't.
I
was
went every
stuck.
time.
I went to Johnny's, actually. Yeah. There was periods of times where, I kind of banked off of the family that I grew I mean, I was fortunate to meet Johnny like literally day one. We lived across the hall from each other.
Right.
So I mean, I pretty much knew Johnny from literally day one to now, and like, you know, my family got to meet Johnny's family, so that was unique. But like, you know, you were 3 hours away, so it is interesting. I've never been able to see like an inside perspective. Did you go home a lot? I know.
I went home every time we had an opportunity. I think we had fall break and maybe a long weekend like Labor Day. I'm thinking I went home.
What about like just
Spring breaks and
weekend.
stuff.
Well, spring break first year, I went home.
Yeah.
Our freshman year, like dullest spring break ever. Went home.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Then we found cruises and the Keys and all the good times. But yeah,
So talk to us a little bit about your fraternity experience, joining clubs while also playing football, and you've emphasized in the past on a few episodes just kind of that journey dealing with injuries, and I think it's important to kind of share and showcase a few of those testimonies you did go through, just to kind of tie it all in and where you were at personally.
well, as you kind of heard, the change high schools for football. Went to Stetson for football, and then we sit out the entire first season. And then it's all taken away from you. I went through some depression for sure, but I think what helped pull me through it was having something else to fall back on, which was a fraternity. And it wasn't no fraternity experience like y'all think. It was really a bunch of us as football guys saying, hey, we're going to take over this house and hang out together, and then we'll do some of the fraternity stuff. But it also gave us an opportunity to cross paths with people we probably would never have. Like I think of Gabriel Smith, Gator, our boy. I probably wouldn't have hung out with him in college. Even Jordan E. Woody. I don't know if we would have crossed paths. We had the opportunity to build bonds, build relationships with these guys because of that, in addition to leaning even more in and spending even more time with football, now with Pike. Now you're living with each other every single day and really create bonds. I can't leave out the idiots between, you know, Austin Marks, Jeb Boudreau, Dre Long, Griff Vari, and these are people still in our life today. But we all spent time together, you know, in that setting.
Yeah, and lived together. You know, we literally lived together for extended periods of time.
I mean, college is a different environment altogether, right? In high school, middle school, elementary school, you're going home every single night. You live with the same people every single day. You get up and you get to go meet your friends. Well, this is a different environment. You don't have that anymore. You're messed with hundreds of kids all in one dorm, right? And you're got people across the hall. It's kind of like your first acclimation into life, you know, by yourself. But, you know, it's different, right? You had to navigate that. There's a lot of different people that you keep coming across every single day.
And for me, it got heightened because, right, you talk about the experience in high school and never having those people. Now you're spending years. You're spending 2, 3, 4 years with this group. I leaned into that a lot because I didn't want to repeat the regrets that I had in high school. So now it's time to graduate college. And here I am faced with that situation again of maybe potentially having to restart. I don't want to restart. And to this day, I was one of the biggest proponents of us staying in Central Florida. And a lot of us did and still are. I have some different perspectives in my 30s, weird, than I did in my 20s.
Thank gosh.
But it kind of all steamrolled into that again, as I think back on it, like I wanted to keep the party going. These are the best 4 years of our lives. Why does it have to stop? We just go 45 minutes down the road. We're still living together. As you two were roommates. Ab and I were roommates. We're still doing kind of the same things. We were not playing ball. We're working now, but it's still that similar lifestyle.
Yeah. 2-part question. Do you have? So when you talk about the hopping around, I almost think of it as like your parents were in the military almost, where you know you're stationed and you're going elsewhere. And I know a lot of kids and a lot of people who go through that struggle to really have meaningful connections and meaningful relationships, not because they so much don't want to, but it's because it's the fear of building a relationship and growing a best friend. It's going to be removed or it's just going to walk away at some point.
Putting yourself out there.
So in college, did you ever feel like at a point you were like, hey, I kind of want to be reserved and I don't want to get too invested into friendships and whatnot because of what's happened in the past? And then the second part of that question is, was there ever a moment where you can really think about, it's like, hey, these are my boys. this is the group of friends that I'm never gonna let walk away.
Yeah.
And I probably know where you're gonna go with this, but go ahead.
Well, for starters, to answer the first question, no on the reservations.
Okay.
I'm a person who has always just gone head first. I think that's why, the fall hurts, like the regret carries, because you don't plan for that. You don't plan for it to end. You just go all in and enjoy the ride as long as you can. So no, it never was a second guess to me. And for These Are My People, it's senior year. We are sitting watching a cruise video that James Lagama has created. We are talking about getting tattoos of family. And that shit was real. That shit was real for me. It's just like, yeah, this, and again, this is second semester, senior year. So you've heard the plans of what people are going, what people are doing, and there's a lot of talk about. There's people who want to stay. My now wife at the time, she's already moved back from California. She's already graduated. She's hanging out with us in DeLand. She's living in Orlando. So my future is pretty set in Orlando. Now I'm starting to, all right, who's riding with me? Adam, we were roommates right away. Johnny was in Port Orange. We weren't as close right away. James goes south. Now James is up in Orlando. All right, that's a piece of the puzzle. All right, now Johnny's moving. That's a piece of the puzzle. Ken Massa could have gone to New Jersey. He's still in Florida. That's a win. The idiots we talked about being Griff, Austin, Jeb, Dre, they're still in DeLand. They come see us in Orlando. And now you start to see how all of this is possible. There's a chance at this, at keeping this euphoria going on. And I kind of felt like the ringleader a little bit with it. Like, I can make this happen. Why does it have to end? Because again, I'm a person who doesn't, you can't tell me what to do. Y'all know that, so you can say that, yeah, you go to college and you move away and you start families, and that's cool for a lot of people, but who says that has to be us? Why can't we be the people who change that norm? And that's just been my mentality behind it for a long time.
Yeah, I would say that as a group collectively, we've done with no one's distinctively taken ownership of a specific role that keeps this. That's like this glue that keeps it together. I think it's an equally distributed bond that we all share, but we've done really well at keeping a sense of just sharing experiences and continuing the trend and continuing the bond and seeing each other religiously. Now, of course, events happen, and that brings us together with different life events, whether it be engagements or weddings or this or that. But, I mean, there's been reasons where we don't, just birthdays, and our group is so large that events are happening, on any given month, there's 10 events I can go up to Orlando for. Yeah. So it's or you guys can come down here, right? So, we've done really well at keeping that camaraderie together, and really, I don't think it's a wave, because the wave's never going to crash. I think it's a constantly moving effort that we just continuously build. So, yeah, no matter where we are in Florida, we find a way.
Yeah, and I think one of the awesome things you hear as we've gone through those different weddings and we've met the different families and the different extended relatives is you continue to hear, look at this group that is still together. First it was maybe 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. I mean, we've been out of college 8 years and friends for 12, still going. It just evolved. It's turned from weddings and bachelor parties into baby showers. We talked about golf trips on a different episode. I think it just continues to evolve. And I will, Johnny made a comment our first year out of college that I've never forgotten. It was, we're at New Smyrna Beach, and he's just like, the people who want to be invested, they'll find a way to show up. So, and like you said, Kenny, everyone is finding a way. Maybe it's not every single event, but everyone's trying to show up in those biggest moments.
Yeah, and I think that these events and specifically the large life events have deepened our bond.
Sure.
We know literally everybody's families to a greater extent. Your extended friends, people we would never cross paths with ourselves from every one of our perspectives. The most ingrained one is Nolan. I would never know Nolan, right, outside of James, or Fabian. I would never know Fabian outside of that relationship. So we know each other on a more deeper level, which I think is a great thing, and I know that you love that because it secures the deal even more with the relationships.
A little bit, yeah. It proves me right. I like
I
that.
was waiting for the right. I love that. All right, so adulting, you're figuring it out in college.
For sure.
We could spend an hour just
We could.
on you.
Let's not.
in college. Oh my goodness. Talk us through graduating from college. You're in the workforce.
Yeah.
I believe, and I think we all can share this and say this out loud. I think a lot of your success defining in who you are in the workforce and in the finance industry stems from how you grew and your relationship piece and what you brought to the table when we were in college. So we got to see it first at hand. But talk through that journey just in the real life, in the real world.
Yeah. So we've talked about this a little bit. Unique. Kenny kind of doesn't count because he started the company, but we've all been at the same company that we started with since we graduated college. Within that, I've been on the same team in the same department at the same company for the last 7.5 years. Now our department's constantly changing, adapting, new responsibilities, pivots. So it hasn't felt like that. I've been able to adopt a lot of different skills, technically, leadership wise. That's just interesting. But from a relationship standpoint, I had a lot of coworkers. You come into a larger company, James, Johnny, your company seems a little bit more new school, younger dynamics. I don't know, but for me, I came in and it was almost, this is the frat football kid who's joining the team. And I had a lot of people who looked out for me, and helped me get to those different promotions and get into leadership. And I'm not going to say it was coddled, but it was almost like it was mentorship, but it was almost like big brother, big sister type of thing. So from a coworker standpoint, again, you had those people looking out from you. You built relationships with these people, and then, seeing it come to fruition. Now I'm in these leadership positions. I want to do the same thing for anyone coming through because of what people did for me to help me get to where I am. I think a lot of us understand we don't get to where we are, at least from a career standpoint, most of the time. Entrepreneurship's different by ourselves. And I had the opportunity to learn from a lot of people on just the way corporate America works, the way business works, and then as you move through those roles, how those roles work.
Love it.
So let's give a quick little recap here. You go from big family, right? Hanging out with friends kind of up until that high school mark.
Sure.
Then you bounce around. You're almost a lone wolf in retrospect. You have friends, yes, but you're changing that group of friends constantly and having to adapt. And like you said, the chameleon effect. You go into college and, again, still started off chameleon effect, but you started to branch out from your normal path of sports. Life was sports. Now you're kind of doing something else, and that helped you guide you through that process. Yeah. To now you're having 40 plus friends. And that's not a joke when we say that, because we've had trips planned where we have 40 plus people on the same location.
Yeah.
All people that we went to high school or college with. Now you've got your career. So your relationships are growing even more. And so now you've got coworkers, mentors, and all this stuff. But there's also a specific relationship that you have to develop as well. That's different. And bouncing from college in high schools and all these things, your friends, it's easy, right? But relationships with a romantic relationship is a little bit different.
Sure.
And so, it started in college, your relationship with Morgan. And like you kind of said, she graduated before us. So, walk us through like how you went through that path, because that's different, right? This is a person of one, right? It's now becomes a person of two. So
that one's pretty easy. I think the moment for us came early because she lives in California, I live in Florida. When she decided to come back to Florida, kind of similar. All the boys are moving to Orlando. All right, we got the lady. She's moving to Orlando, so we're looking good. We're locked in. She's from a relationship. I'm just gonna she's my why. She's why I get up every day. She's why I go to work, do this. My goal is that she doesn't have to work. That's a goal that I have laid out that I am going to execute for her at some point in this life. But she puts up with a lot. Y'all put up with a lot. She puts up with a lot. So thank you. But I heard it's not a quote, but it's something that a guy I work worked with at my company. He's no longer there. He told me marriage isn't 50-50. It's 100-100. And what he meant by that is, there are going to be days where you're not going to be at your best. She's not going to be at her best. And one of you is going to have to carry the entire plate. It's not, I did half the work. Now you pick up the other half. It's, hey, for example, you might have to cook and clean the dishes today because I can't. And that just stuck for me. And I heard that early, and I've tried to apply that often where it's, listen, it's we, and it's 100% me, it's 100% you, and it's 100% together. There's no counting scores of who's carrying what load. It's just whatever is necessary for us. We are one. You get it done. You figure it out.
And it's also worthwhile to point out, because she was in college, she knew a lot of the same people that we were hanging out with too, right? So it's cool to get everyone kind of ingrained and having similar interests, having similar backgrounds, having memories that kind of give that foundation, right? So it helps your case.
Yeah, she's known all of us.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
a long time.
And for
she lived with us at one point.
She did live with us a little longer than expected. It's fine in college. But at one point, it was like, I guess I saw this in my head. I don't know if y'all saw this. I brought the boys and she brought the girls, because we spent a lot of time with volleyball, which she played volleyball. And we're still close with a lot of people, from that. Like I think of a Kayla Weller. I think of Shannon. Shannon Craighead, who brought Tim.
That's
right.
Something that's a couple that's definitely comes from Morgan's relationship. I think, and I think of a lot because our bond with Tim is like so grand, and like it's almost like he's one of us.
We see in Tim what Shannon saw in him.
Right.
Yeah.
We get it. We understand.
Yeah. So,
And right,
unique.
dynamics change, but I think from where we're at today, another reason that as a friend group we're able to go on these trips and be able to experience all these things together is you talked about the family drama. If you look at us at a big family, you expect drama, and there isn't that animosity that boils over where people aren't talking to each other, which then now people are making a decision to pick a side, and now you're losing communication. Everyone. It's not that everyone is the best of friends, but there's that common respect and I think ability to go out and enjoy moments together, whether you're there for your significant other or you're there for just the people who are there. It all stems from us, all of us, the entire group having a common familiarity.
The relationship standpoint that you both bring, though, is unique because we share, from all of our perspectives, we share so much of a I don't know the correct way to say this, an equal distribution of relationships, right? The females, just recently, like, we all are super close, and any opportunity we can take to spend time together, we take it, like 100%. Right. Our partners all go to a bridal shower. They're all celebrating at a bridal shower. We're all hanging out together as well. Like, so it makes it easier for us because we know the wives spend time together. We spend time together. They all go on bachelorette parties. We go on bachelor parties. We all do these things independently, but also like in synergy because we're all equally each other's friends together in some way, shape, or form. It's so unique. Yeah.
I think a point to piggyback off that is when we talk about the relationship piece and just still continuing to find ways to hang out and be together. Is you're gonna get married. That's gonna disrupt. Maybe hasn't.
No.
Your friends are gonna start. Your friends are gonna start to have kids. Our friends have started to have kids. We have a soon-to-be father here coming here shortly.
That's right.
That still hasn't disrupted. In fact, it's actually provided us better and more opportunities to celebrate birthday parties. Hey, when the wives go on a bachelorette party, all right, the boys got to get together and we're all hanging out and helping babysit the little ones, right? Like, which is really cool. And it's your priorities change and your life changes, but what stays the same is the relationships.
Right.
And that's one thing, man, I will say it's a huge wake up call for me just from how important meaningful relationships are. And you think you know what it means, but as you grow older and you said you hit this 30s, you're like, oh boy, here we go. And that started very young with you, man, where we started hanging out and I was like, this guy is just like, he just won't give up. Everyone's got to be together. And then here we are 10 plus years later.
We go back to work that we did strength finders. And I think that this leaned into me or I leaned into it, but my whole life is sports, right? Everything is for sports. I'm like, oh, easy. Competition. Why am I even taking this test? Competition was not the number one strength. It was harmony. And I think that was an early revelation for me. I was like, oh, shit. Competition was number 2. So it's like, yo, I love you, but I want to kill you. But it's just the fact that it wasn't flipped. I don't know. So I leaned into it. It gave me another reason to continue to lean into it even more, now that I'm out of college into the work profession and trying to facilitate this, hey, we're all hanging out. But again, like I said, perspectives, if you ask that question to 25-year-old Ryan to 30-year-old Ryan, you now get different answers.
I mean, if you can lean into that actually a little bit more, you went through all these different phases of your life, and obviously there's points of self-reflection and self-awareness. Sure. What were your key takeaways? Like, what worked when building these lasting connections and making sure that these things stay together?
Chameleon effect. You have these different conversations with all these different individuals, and you morph into what that person needs in that moment. And that's where this big aha has come up for me, because I look at my job. I'm a manager. You manage certain different people. They all need different things.
Putting on different hats,
morphing into what they need. You got this big friend group, and the conversations, whether to diffuse a situation or to just talk about misinterpretations, you have to morph. And I'm like the last 2 weeks, this thing just poof for me, which is weird, but I don't know how much I like it, because again, I have my own struggles with it from different standpoints. But there is a lot of common similarities of that effect going back to when I'm talking about 15 years old.
And you now have friends that have been around for, I think we've said 12 years, definitely going to keep going on from here, right? But we're in different environments throughout different phases of our lives. And you kind of mentioned we went through college, then workforce, then weddings, then now it's kids and family. How does that played out for you over time, the changing environments and how the relationships have maybe evolved or changed or stayed the same?
I mean, for the most part, for me, the relationships have, I think, stayed the same. I'd say the biggest change, I'd probably pivot to Adam and Billy with kids and just what that dynamic is, and understanding that they're not going to be around for everything, and that's totally okay. It just looks different. It goes back to what Johnny said. Things just look different, but that's not bad. But outside of that, at least again, from my perspective, I see probably y'all too much. I see a lot of our friends too much, not a bad thing. So it's not at that point yet where it's changed for me. Maybe it's changed for others. And I understand, I think a lot better today that it will change, and that's okay, because I can go back to 2 moments with 2 people at this table. We're at Bill Walsh's house years ago, and James Lagama hits us with, after maybe a couple drinks, couple beverages, that he's moving to North Carolina. Naturally, I didn't take that well. I threw a fit about it. But who am I to make that decision for someone else? How selfish is that of me to say, hey, you can't do this because of me? So then you fast forward and you look at Jonathan Straw, just got a new role. Awesome. Could maybe pull him out of Florida. You never know. I didn't have that reaction. I didn't have that reflection, because you understand it's not about you, and things are going to change and they're going to look different. And that's okay. But that took me a while to get to. So.
Johnny, you ever thought you'd hear that from him?
Yeah, we're growing up.
Yeah, man.
I don't know if this is I want to ask you this, and this might be very simple for you to answer, but like, I feel like you have a good take on reading people or understanding who you want in your circle. Like, what do you value most in a relationship? Like, as you reflect, like, what do you think maybe some of the root causes are? Like, what are some of the things that maybe we collectively or not collectively bring to the table that makes you want to hang out with us cool kids and keep us in your life?
I don't know if it's a characteristic of the person. I think for me, the biggest takeaway I have is I've seen it both ways. I've seen it stay together, and I've seen it fall apart. And when it fell apart, I was at the root. I was in the middle of that. I was maybe the root cause of that. And I think for me, it goes down to communication. And it's a two-way street. It's you reaching out to that person, checking in. Hey, how are you doing? but it's also receiving that message and responding. And you could take that at the friendship level. You could take that at the marriage level. You could take that at so many different levels that when you see people stop talking and stop communicating, that's the first red flag. Because if you lose communication, it's hard to get anything back, because if you're not on the same page, now the mind starts to wander. Now all these different things start to pop up. But even through the good and the bad, if you're able to communicate, and even if you stray afar, if you can get back on the same page and talk through it, that's going to give you the best chance. So I don't know if there's a characteristic of why I hang out with the cool kids. I just think it's, we all have I think we all understand, and we communicate when things are going great. We communicate when things are going bad. And that speaks for the people at this table. That speaks for the people not at this table too, that we've name dropped or referenced throughout the conversation.
Yeah. I think that one thing that I want to probably end with here is, I think it's important for any person in life to choose the people that they involve themselves with carefully, right? You want to make sure that you surround yourself with good people. You want to make sure that those people are helping you grow into the person that you want to become. How do you strategically ensure that you're placing yourself in front of the right people professionally and personally to continue to develop yourself and your relationships and just put you on the path that you want to be on for who you want to become?
Yeah, I think, I took this from work. My first day, they told me be a sponge, right? You take a little bit of what this person offers, a little bit of what this person offers, throw in your own, and you make it your own. It's not copying. It's just taking what you like. So you take that approach, and then you always hear the quote that is, "Tell me who your friends are. I'll tell you who you are." Mm-hmm. So I kind of, in being a sponge, and you surround yourself with the people you want to be with. From a podcast standpoint, social media, you listen to the people you want to get to, right? Your heroes, athletes. It's things you want to aspire to be. You want to take a little bit of that good. So between surrounding yourself with people who align with you, who align with what you want to go towards, maybe have some differences, but still, the ultimate similarities are there. And then you tie the bow on with, and you could take this back to parenting too. We're all products of our environment. You understand why people are the way they are when you understand where they came from, what they've been through. And you could say the same as people move forward. If that person's going to grow into this, and then you look back at their path or their trajectory, well, he's a product. Here's all the things he went through. You mentioned on a previous episode, here are those scars that, he's now gained, those experiences, and how to handle it, maybe the right way or the wrong way. But you have to go through it. So it's experience too.
I like that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in closing, it's when you talk about relationships, everyone has a different path, right? They could have the big family relationship in the beginning. They could have little to no family. They could grow up and find just a single mentor, keep a very close-knit group of friends. But everyone has a unique story to tell and has takeaways that they get from it. And I thank you for kind of sharing your path and your life, what you've learned along the way, your what you value, what you want to see in a relationship. And it's a give and take, right? That 100 out of 100 rule, I think, is something a lot of people can walk away with on this conversation, as well as other things. Even the chameleon effect, right? You turned it from a negative thing into a positive thing, right? Like it's all about outlook and self-awareness and growth, right? And you grow with people, relationships. You don't get to where you're at by yourself, right? So thank you for kind of sharing with us and going down that memory lane, which it sounded like it was a good thing, and you kind of enjoyed this task, this reflection moment, really.
Yeah, it was more prep than I usually do. So it was
great, dude.
Thanks, man.
Well done. Well,
Thank you for sharing. We really appreciate all of your knowledge, experiences on relationships. And I think for all of us, we can't wait till we have another event that brings all of our families together and all of our additional friends' families together, because all of those events are awesome.
Let's keep breaking the norm, baby.
That's right.
Yeah. But until then,
The
Bender
Continues.